علي وغرامي علي مولى علي مولى علي أنا حبي علي وغرامي علي مولى علي مولى علي.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you so much for joining episode 4 of the Huck Project. Today our topic is going to be positive thinking.
Very excited for this topic because it's very important because it really guides you throughout your life. Your life is guided by how you think. You can change the way you react to things or how things happen in your day depending on how you think about it in your own head, because that will make your viewpoint.
Yeah.
But before we actually go into that, we
we'll
got to
go
start
into
with
the
our dua. Of course, we can't go without having the guidance from Allah before we begin. So let's start with that.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. My Lord, expand for me my chest and ease for me my task and untie the knot from my tongue that they may understand my speech.
Ameen.
Ameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa jafajahum. All right.
Yes,
so
let's get into it.
Let me put it onto the page.
So, the first kind of thought that Masrat and I came to with positive thinking was understanding that positive thinking is a habit, right? So, in the same way, negative thinking is also a habit. The way we think becomes a habit, and that's why if you meet someone who's usually very happy and jolly, it's not because they're just instantly like that, but because they've trained their mind to be thinking positively and happily, which is why you see that energy, radiating off of them. And in the same way, if you see someone who is always sad or, just down and negative out loud, that likely means that they've wired their brain also to think negatively in that way.
Yeah, I agree. What you're thinking really comes off and portrays to others. So it's really important that we take control of our own minds. And that was a statement that is literally written right here that she wrote. We are in control of our minds. And if we take control of our minds, we can also take control of how we react to things and how we treat others and how we go through our lives, It'll strengthen everything, It'll strengthen our tawakkul, it'll strengthen our faith. Everything depends on how you use your mind. So using your mind in a positive manner will change your entire life.
Yeah, and that'll actually get us into, when we will step into that, but the science behind thinking positively. Your brain is actually physically changes its neural pathways when you're thinking positively or when you're thinking negatively. So that I find very interesting, just in the same way that, when we work out, we're physically changing our body.
Yeah.
It might not change right away. Well, it's not going to change right away after one workout, but after many workouts and when you're consistently working out, your body physically changes. And in the same way, when you're constantly feeding your mind with positive thoughts, you're also training it to think more positively. So now your brain is going to be able to access those positive thoughts even more easily.
I haven't actually thought about it like that, but that's really cool to hear, how our brain reacts to the way we think. It basically changes your whole chemistry, which is so interesting.
Very, very cool.
That is so cool. So it's really, really important. Now we know it's really important to take care of our mindset and have a positive mindset. But before we actually go into the science and everything of positive mindset, what is a positive mindset? What does that even mean? A positive mindset is being grateful for everything we have, having faith in what Allah has planned for us. Of course, we talked about tawakkul, and I think tawakkul kind of guides us to having a positive mindset. It'll make us more positive if we have faith in what Allah has for us. Another thing about having a positive mindset is seeing the best in people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when you see the best in people, you're able to, wire your brain to just constantly think positively. And instead of choosing to see those negative things, or let's say you're rewiring your brain, so maybe you usually do see negative things in people or, in situations, by just, giving yourself some grace through the situation and trusting in Allah and having that tawakkul, you can now just say, okay, I'm going to let this go and, there's something else I can focus on, focus my energy towards.
Yeah.
And it could be positive, the next thing that comes to mind.
And seeing positively in people will also make you in turn see positively in yourself. I feel like a lot of the times when you see negative things in other people, we're also checking those things in ourselves. Maybe we're thinking too negatively about ourselves, you know, putting ourselves down. It's really important to see the good traits in yourself. Obviously, you have to continue to work on yourself and make yourself a better person, but that doesn't mean you have to see yourself negatively. Seeing the good traits in yourself, and when you're seeing bad traits in others, you're going to see bad traits in yourself. So continuously seeing the world in a more brighter, more positive point of view.
The way we talk to ourselves really affects how, you know, how happy we are in life, I would say. There was this study where there was a test done on people where they had to recite positive affirmations, and after 4 weeks it was found that they were actually less anxious and less stressed, which I found really fascinating, because
That's beautiful.
through a study it's obviously going to always prove us more that, okay, yeah, if I do these positive affirmations all the time, I will have less stress and anxiety, which is, you know, I think we should take from. And like you said, like the way we speak to ourselves is very impactful towards, you know, our thinking.
You know, I'm seeing duas in my head when you said like they repeat, because we repeat duas a lot, right? And a lot of the duas are asking Allah to help us, and when we repeat those, it's like putting that in our head. There's a lot of duas that are also for benefiting us. Help me become a better person. Help me do this. Help me do that. You know,
Dua really has to come from this like very authentic place, and very genuine place. I've noticed, you know, and I'm sure everyone has, when they recite duas, these duas can be done from a place of either maybe it's like a place of desperateness or a place of inspiration. You know, you could be feeling a different way when you make duas, and I think where it comes to be like that you can have the strongest tawakkul in Allah after your dua is when you're the most genuine. Like I could be like, Ya Allah, please help me with my exam because I know you have control over it, and I could just be like, okay, and now I just go study. Or I could genuinely sit down and like, you know, ask Allah from like the deepest part of my heart and just kind of just like spend that time on my prayer mat just trying to connect with Allah. And if I make that time, I create that room for being genuine with Allah. And that just helps us to have that tawakkul and trust in Him that, you know, this dua inshallah will come true, and that actually allows you to like put in that positive thinking. And that brings me to an author that I actually really admire her work, and her name is Neuroplasticity, and she has written books along the ideas of positive thinking and happiness. And there's one book called The Happiness Equation, and she states the following: I am convinced that life is 10% what happens and 90% how I react to it. So I found that really interesting because, Masur, you kept bringing up, you know, how we react to situations definitely affects how we perceive 100%. The situation. And I think that's why when you just submit to the idea that life is, you know, 10% what happened, so that's the situation, and now 90% is how I react to it, that means my whole feelings and how I perceive the situation is influenced and impacted by however I decide to react to it. So if I react with like anger and I'm upset that, you know, I didn't get this job that I've wanted, then my entire, you know, mood will be affected. And, you know, that'll lead me into a line of negative thinking. But if I look at that in a positive note and I trust that, you know, maybe this opportunity wasn't for me and Allah has a better one for me in store, then that allows me to accept the situation, and now I've reacted with the 90% positively.
I completely agree with this statement, because a lot of life is how we take things in, how our soul takes things in, you know? The things that happen are only this much of our situation. How our mind takes it in, how our soul takes it in is the most of what matters, you know? Like in any situation, like
That's
you said, it doesn't, life is, as we know, you know, Islam tells us this, life is short, and there's only so much that can happen, and there's so much that we take in, and what we choose to do with what we've got, and how we decide to take it in, what we decide to do with that time is the most important part. How we decide to react to people, how, like, something my mom always used to tell me, which is really interesting, and it all comes into this too, is whenever someone was not nice to me and I was upset and I was like, but why did they have to do that? She'd be like, but you're in control of how you react to it. Doesn't matter what they did. As long as you react to it better and you know that, like, oh, you did the right thing, for example, then just move on and move on to the next thing. Because you did the right thing in that situation and it's fine. If you choose to react worse than them or the same way, then you're on the same level as they are.
And
you might as well just better yourself.
Yeah, and you're also exhausting your energy by just, trying to like feed into that negative energy then. Whereas if you take that positive approach, you're now becoming more at peace. People who live with a more positive mindset are more happy in life. And people that are more happy in life actually live longer. So, just understanding that whole train of events.
Everything is just...
Yeah, it just shows that, positive thinking can lead you to a longer lasting life, and that's just for the better. Like, you can do more with the time that you have here, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And being more positive can make you, I feel like, can make you more successful. I think it's not even about being successful. It's about you would be grateful for the things you have, which would make you feel like you were successful. You have more gratitude when you're positive. A big part of being positive is being grateful for what you have and what you've experienced, and you move on because you're like, alhamdulillah.
And I think what's important is for us to realize how to get to that point, because obviously negative thinking is very real in the sense that maybe you're struggling because so many like train of bad events are happening in your life, or what you look at as bad is happening to you, right? And so you feel that you are a victim of all these things that are happening in your life, and it's affecting you now. So I think, cultivating that positive mindset is a whole thing in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
As we were mentioning, we want to be able to delve into how we can cultivate this positive mindset, because it's not so easy as, just changing how we think immediately. And I think it starts with certain prompts, and these prompts were actually mentioned by the same author. And she expresses that confessing through self-reflection, through, journaling, or however you would like to, let go of these thoughts. Maybe that's just verbalizing this out loud every morning. But this can help with mental release and stress. And so that way you're ultimately creating more room for you to be able to have these positive thoughts and let go of negative thoughts. So some of those prompts include, I will let go of ... I am grateful for ... and then I will focus on ... So, I think that all of these really highlight what Musarat was saying earlier. She mentioned, forgiving, which matches with I will let go of, right? If you let go of something, you're forgiving that person. And then if you're saying I am grateful for, well, you mentioned gratefulness. So I think this author's great, but Musarat's so great too, because she had the same line of thinking.
Stop. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, to me it seems kind of just obvious, If you want to be more positive, you have to let go of things. If you want to be more positive, you have to be more grateful for things, And it makes you a better person. And then the last statement that she made was, I will focus on, which is very important, because after you've let go of things, now you got to need a new thing to focus on so that you can improve and change kind of the direction of what you're thinking about. I'll focus on the positives of this person, or the positives of myself, or how I can be more confident. I don't know, something random. But there's even an Islamic perspective on all of this. So cultivating a positive mindset kind of comes into something called muhasaba. So muhasaba is self-reflection. And if you want to have a positive mindset, you have to identify the cause. And in order to identify the cause, you actually have to reflect. We already talked about this previous episodes, but reflection is a big part of Islam. And muhasaba is something that they recommend doing every night. So every night you should sit on your bed or anywhere you are and practice muhasaba by thinking about all the things that you've done throughout your day. They usually say go throughout your day, but it's identifying the sins you have in your day, reflecting on your actions, identifying the root cause of so in this case, identifying the root cause of your negative thinking, and then thinking about ways to make this positive, and then expressing gratitude is a big part of muhasaba. And all of this is stated in Islam, which makes it's our religion. Something I learned in some classes I just went to is religion is our worldview. Islamic worldview is a worldview, and it's our life. And if we follow this guideline that God has given us, Allah has given us, our life is so beautiful. Reflection self-reflection is something that we hear all the time in the Western world. We don't realize that Islam literally stated it down for us. Do muhasabah, it will make you a better person. It will make you feel better too. And it's so beautiful. And I love it. So do some muhasabah tonight. Sit down and reflect on your actions and all the things that you did and all the thoughts you had. And this way you can start your journey on having a positive mindset.
Yeah, I think that was really well said. I definitely agree. I think self-reflection is something that allows us to cultivate that mindset, because you're just thinking about those things constantly, about how I can improve the way I think and achieve the goals or the type of life that I want to have, right? And
Which
you're
is
so
our previous
right.
episode.
Yeah, and you're so right that that all of this aligns with Islam and the way that we're taught to live our lives.
It gives me like a feeling where I'm like, oh my God, all these things that we think of these positive things and change our life and make it a better life. It's all written in Islam. We could just choose to follow it, and then we would have realized all this stuff ahead of time. I mean, it's beautiful that we're seeing it now, and we're seeing all the connections. Every episode, if you notice that we do, our topic is just a general topic that people talk about.
Yeah.
But it connects
We always
to
find
Islam.
like where it connects to Islam.
It always
Yeah.
connects to Islam, regardless of if you want it to or not. It always connects to Islam, and there's always ways that Islam is telling us to find these positive things or do these positive things, and it's such a beautiful thing. And I hope that's what the podcast is helping you with, connecting Islam to your regular positive life things or thinking, since we're on that episode.
Yes, I think it does the both of them. And, you know, I did already go a little bit into the science behind positive thinking, but I thought
Islam and science go together.
Yes.
Everyone.
Islam and science
gave us gave us the ability to have science, and we have to use it together. It's not separate. That's something that I hear a lot, that science and Islam are separate, but actually they are one. Allah obviously created everything, and He created the science behind everything, and we can study it, but it's not to go against Islam and say science did create everything. That's not how it works. It goes in line with, like Allah created this. So yeah, Allah created science. So everything He created has a science.
Yeah.
And we use that. I think that's a better way of thinking about science. So we are going to go into the science of positive thinking.
So I thought I'd just share, I did already mention the science behind it, where that, you know, it impacts the way that we think, impacts the structure of our brain, literally physically. And I mentioned how, similar to exercise, right, the physical state of the brain also changes when you're rewiring your brain to either positive thinking or negative thinking. So it's really important to keep that in mind, because you're training your brain all the time. So that means starting right now, you could change how you're thinking. Like if you have a situation in your life, like I'm going to let you all think of one right now. And, you know, that particular situation, how do you currently look at it? If it looks like a hurdle in your life, it can very much be a hurdle, but the way that you react to the situation, the way that you interpret the situation will affect your mental health, because you're allowing it to affect your brain, right, physically. So definitely just, you know, giving yourself that room to just be graceful to the situation and accept the situation as it is, so that you can then start to create a little bit of positive thinking toward that situation.
Yeah, I completely
you might not
agree.
and you might not have full control over the situation, and that's perfectly okay.
But you can mentally have control over your situation.
Exactly. Yeah, you can mentally have control over the situation.
It's like someone is okay. I keep using a "someone is rude to you" statement, but this is like the elementary school. Like someone's mean to you, and you don't like how they're treating you. You can try to stop them, but if they don't stop, the best you can do is tell yourself it's okay, they don't understand, and then move on. And then you've just created that peace for yourself. In the counter, if you were to tell yourself, oh my God, I hate myself because this person told me this and they hated me, and you know, life is awful now, you're going to just create more of a hurdle for yourself.
Yeah.
You might as well just step back and be like, I am the bigger person, and move on.
Yeah.
And then bus, it's done.
Or even just saying, like, I can handle this situation, you know, in a mature way. I feel like it's just being mature when you can step away from the situation and not fall into the gossip and, you know, the whatever could come out of a situation of, like, making it bigger than it is. You know?
You might as well just step back and leave it.
Exactly.
And move on.
And that brings me now into the studies, right, of positive thinking. So one of the studies actually proved that happiness makes you successful rather than success making you happy. That means that the way that we think of our situations in life, meaning if we come at it from a positive point of view, then that can make us more successful as opposed to the success in our lives making us happy. So yes, if you achieve a goal, you could be happy, but are you really like fulfilled, truly happy? It would be like temporary happiness, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If you achieve a goal. But if you have this positive thinking, then you ultimately know that you're going to be able to reach this level of success through your positive thinking, and it makes you more happy.
Yeah, I love that.
And another study that I found really interesting was that short-term stress, it strengthens the immune system because it gives people a boost of adrenaline, and so it helps them to be able to know how to handle the situation, or it gives them that boost of like, okay, I need to figure this out because I'm stressed right now, like, you know, like that short little bit when you're stressed before an exam, and so you're like, I'm gonna study because I'm stressed, right? That's a good thing. But if you have long-term stress, that actually damages the body over time, and it can cause depression, anxiety, other stress disorders. So, you know, just having that understanding that, okay, short-term stress is good to an extent, but knowing that I should not fall into this long-term stress.
Yeah, it really shows that like having problems in life and having that little bit of stress isn't the issue. The issue is letting it keep going, you know?
Yeah.
If you stop it from where like, okay, I have the problem, I felt the stress, now I'm gonna think of it in a better way and move on from it, rather than having problems, having stress, and then continuing to drag on that stress for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
It just continues to make it worse. So this really shows that.
Same thing for sadness, where if you're sad, that's okay, but let yourself have that control of your state of mind where you don't allow yourself to fall into a deeper sadness where it maybe lasts for months and months, and you know, you could be falling into depression. If you maybe catch yourself early enough, then you can prevent yourself from falling into those deeper states of sadness.
And staying away from sadness, a good way to do that is remembering Allah. And there's a verse that actually talks about this. Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 40, says, "Do not worry, Allah is certainly with us." And that verse, if you remember that Allah is certainly with us, you won't have as much sadness, as much stress. Maybe that will trigger the positive thinking in your head, because you'll be like, Allah is with me, and I'm going to be more positive about this. And there are people in the world who are constantly suffering that are doing this a lot, right?
Exactly. And that brings us into our transition of just, you know, sharing the strength that the oppressed people have in this world today. And I think it's just incredible how they can really live with, you know, all the difficulties that they're facing in life, yet they hold on to the essence of this verse, really, because, you know, they're able to hold on to Allah through their difficulties and understanding that, okay, I am sad to this extent, but, you know, Allah is certainly with us, so there is peace in me, right? And I think that's something that they really hold to themselves very closely, and I think it's something we can be inspired with.
They have a lot of tawakkul, like we said, and they have a lot of acceptance, and they have gratitude, and they're at a place in their minds where everything is just positive.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, and like I keep saying, to get to that level that they're at where they have so much faith and, you know, in Allah, if we had that in our regular days, everything would just be so much better every day.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's so weird to say everything would be better, because when we say everything would be better, in our heads is our life will be better. But it's not about the actual life being better. It's about your mind will be better, which means in turn you will feel like your life is better.
And
And
it's all about the way you perceive things.
yeah,
really.
and it just goes to show that the life itself doesn't matter. It's how you have reacted to it, which we talked about. That's our talk about positivity. I think that was so cute. I had a good time talking about it, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you so much for joining this episode. We had a great time talking about positive thinking, and we hope that you all took something away from this.
We appreciate you guys so much for watching, Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of The Huck Project. Wow, that was a great close.
Yes. We wanted to also just say thank you for purchasing any hoodies that you might have purchased from the Huck Project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because the money does go directly to funding this project. And so if you haven't gotten a hoodie yet, please do consider supporting us. And in turn, that will be able to help us to continue this project in the long term. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you
in the next episode.
Kudafis.
Episode 5. Kudafis.